And welcome back. Now today I'm showing you this rather complex sketch running on this Arduino known as the blink sketch. Yes, I know. You're probably thinking, hang on a minute, Ralph's lost the plot. What's he doing showing us a blink sketch? Well, there's two things actually about this particular sketch. One, if you look at the actual LED that's actually blue in real life, but to you it looks white. Now it's a double flash and it goes flash, flash, fade. Flash, flash, fade. See that? Now, that's the first thing of note for this particular sketch. And there's something else, of course, that you're probably going to be reasonably interested in, but don't hold your breath too long. Let's find out what the code looks like first of all, shall we? So let's nip over to the code window. I want to give a shout out to PCBWay, PCB Prototype the easy way. Just enter the dimensions of your PCB, choose the number of PCBs you want and the layers, and hit the Quote Now button. Here you have options to select just about anything you'd ever want on a PCB. I tend to leave mine on the defaults because it's the quickest shipping option, with green solder mask and white silkscreen. As an example, here's a board that I had made a couple of weeks back. This is a panelised board, but it worked absolutely wonderfully. Here it is when I've partially made up one of the boards. So simple and a high quality PCB. If you don't fancy making it yourself, you can also go for their assembly process. For the assembly service you can get 20 pieces for just $30 and you get free shipping thrown in as well. Why don't you have a look at their website and try them out now? And here we are. Right, so this is the Arduino IDE we've come to know and love. It's a little bit stretched, but there's a reason for that. So this is what the code looks, it looks a little bit different, you say. Well, a little bit. This is the Arduino IDE Classic mode. Yes, I'm running what's known as the Arduino PRO IDE. This is from the ground up, newly written Arduino editor, compiler, you name it, and this is the classic mode. So for all the millions and millions of people out there who love the Arduino IDE and just don't want to get too complicated after that, this is the mode that you'll be using when this product eventually goes live. And as you can see, it looks pretty much like you've always seen it. I mean, there's not a lot different about it. We still got the verify and upload buttons at the top. In fact, I don't know if that verify one works yet. Let's have a look. Oh, there it goes, look, and lo and behold, it's compiling quite nicely, and that's in fact exactly the code that's running on this board at the moment. However, we don't want this, we want to move up a level, don't we? What happens if I click the button over here that says advanced? Let's have a look, see what happens. And it takes a few seconds to switch from one mode to the other, so let's speed this up. And here we are. Right, and it does some housekeeping behind the scenes, as you can see on this window going mad. So here's the code then, exactly the same as what we just saw it. And it looks a little bit different now because, well, we're in the advanced mode. Although this bit looks quite similar, as does the bit up the top here. All this bit up here looks quite similar, doesn't it? There is quite a fundamental difference actually behind the scenes. Now, so far in this alpha 0.03, I think it is, version, it's the absolute minimum that they could have put out there to enable you to compile a program. So we have the explorer here of the code, but there's nothing like projects yet, like you would have in Eclipse proper. Oh, Eclipse, you say? Yes, I do, because this is using eclipse-theia. With the very thing that I've been using for a long time. The IDE you see in my sketches is invariably Eclipse slower version. So it's a Eclipse that's been taken, modified by Arduino Yancha, his name is, who's given up on it now, and the Arduino add-on on top, and it works very well. So this feels pretty much like what I was using, apart from the fact we're missing about 90% of the functionality. But we do have an explorer of sorts here with the sketch bit at the bottom and the other files that are created along the way. So your C++ code gets converted into a hex file and an ELF file, and eventually something that can get downloaded to your chip. As well as that, we also have a search function, and we can also look at the libraries. Now, libraries are a little bit dodgy at the minute. Exactly how you get new libraries into this, I'm not 100% sure. But what we can say is here, manage libraries. And there we are. There's a whole list of libraries. Now this, I know this is an alpha, right? So we can't look at the functionality as such, but I'm sure they're not going to have it like this big, long, continuous list of libraries. And somehow you've got to find the one you want. This is in fact how I found the library that does that nice little LED flashing that will work in your current Arduino sketches as well, of course. I just happened to pick this one because it's a simple thing to do. So we have the libraries here. We have the Explorer, the search, and well, this is a repository. We haven't got a repository locally, or I don't even think that bit works, to be quite honest. Third-party boards at present are not supported on here, but just to prove the point that it is hanging together enough, I compiled this sketch. Let's just whiz through that because it does in fact explain how the LED library works, and it's useful to know that anyway, isn't it, really? And we'll upload it again to the Arduino I've got stuck on my desk here, and just make sure it all hangs together. So the first thing you need then is the Arduino LED library. Now, the library name is actually called Arduino LED, but when you type it in here, as you can see, it's just LED. Didn't make that mistake, did I? No. Okay, then you say, okay, where is the LED that I want? It's on pin 11. I've also got a beeper on pin 10. But I think we've had enough of beepers lately, haven't we, in my sketches? Just to prove it worked, really. Oh, here I was making a little Morse code thing. This library can send out Morse code as well. Not radio waves. I'm just talking about on the desktop, you know, beep, beep. So what we're saying is here, we want this LED object to run within 2000 milliseconds. Okay, that's what that bit is there saying. And in the main bit, we're saying flash it, and I want the whole thing to finish in 1000. So by doing a bit of maths, 2000 from 1000, we know that it's going to go flash, flash, and then do nothing for 1000 milliseconds, and then flash, flash, okay? And that's what the LED flash bit does. So LED flash does this initial flash, so it's an on-off function, but the second flash is an on PMW off. Okay, and it's quite nice, and that's all you have to code. You don't have to code any delays, any loops. It just does it. Okay, as part, of course, whizzing around this inner loop here, your main loop. It constantly looks at this and goes, "Is it time for me to do something?" But it's all behind the scenes. Very nice. Okay, the documentation can be found. I'll show you that in a second on the browser. It's just a little bit awkward today with my different windows because this is running on my monitor. For some reason, for those of you in the know, I'm using OBS to capture all these windows. OBS will not capture this Arduino PRO IDE. In fact, OBS is capturing fewer and fewer windows these days, I notice, and they're not doing anything about it. So I guess a lot of us are looking around for a new product. Anyway, that aside, I'll show you exactly the documentation and where this library is in just a sec. Let's see if we can upload this then to the Arduino that's sitting on my desk. I've already got the board here, so by clicking on this, I've said it's an Arduino Uno. Sorry for me peering at the screen, but to be quite honest, I can't see it that well, but I can see it's Arduino Uno on COM13, so I've had to select the port and the board as a dual function, so that's fine. And then literally we just say upload, that same upload button. Now what I'm going to do while this is uploading is flip over to the worktop in a little window here just to see, you know, that it is actually uploading. Let's do that next. Right, okay, I think I've got everything positioned correctly so we can see what's going on. Let's just hide these libraries, they're just getting in the way. Right, there we are. So it's just the code and the console output down the bottom. So we're going to upload. Off it goes, compiling. And if you look at the Arduino itself, you'll see the little lights flashing, flashy, flashy, and it's running. Ta-da! And unfortunately, that's where it stops now because, as I say, this is in alpha preview just to give people a flavour of what's coming and whether you discover things that are well, it'd be wrong to say not working, because I mean, not a lot does work in that sense. You know, all the functionality is missing really. But you can compile a sketch like this, and they're encouraging people like you who are using the Arduino IDE, whether it's in classic mode or you want the advanced mode like this, to have a go with this. It's just a simple download. You can run it directly from the download once you've unzipped it. It's a big download though, but I mean, it's simple to do. There's no actual installation as such to do. So you can run it from your downloads folder, which is exactly what I'm doing here. And if you discover things that aren't right, if you think this, I'd expect this to work differently, you tell them, right? And they'll be listening. I hope they're listening. Now, I actually posted a message on their forum a couple of days ago saying, what's happening to this project? Because the last code base was uploaded in October 2019. Even though they've subsequently announced stuff in December 2019, this code base is months old. And I said, surely as it's alpha, you'd be releasing, if not, you know, nightly builds, at least weekly, because there must be thousands of things they're doing. I don't know, perhaps they're just holding stuff close to their chests and then they go, ta-da, the first beta, you know, who knows? But I would have hoped they could give us a few more alpha releases between now and then, so we have more input and can learn how things are working. As it happens though, this is built on the eclipse-theia code base, which is what I've been using all along, so I'm sort of almost aware of what to expect, right? So I should be having a very close eye on this project as things go forward, and I encourage you to at least have a look and perhaps use the classic mode if that's what you're used to. Right, let's have a look where you can get this from and what the web tells us about this. Right, this is the main landing page really for the Pro IDE download and stuff. I'll put all the links, by the way, obviously in this sketch and in my GitHub, so you can have a look at, you know, where stuff is. I strongly recommend you read all this and then download it. Don't download it and dive straight in and wonder why things don't work. It does tell you all the things that they're hoping to include on this. Right, okay, that's a TLDR, right? Let's not read that now. But I can give you a flavour of the things to expect, because this here, this, if you look at the oh, you can't see the address. Okay, this is the theia-ide.org website. And this is sort of what you might come to expect in the fullness of time. You know, fully featured IDE, compiler, debugger, the works. I think I might have a close-up of this window somewhere. Let's have a look. There we are. It's a slightly bigger picture, and it's closer to what I've been using in Eclipse and indeed in Visual Studio. Now, for decades I've been using Visual Studio from Microsoft. That too was built on Eclipse. So yeah, it's all converging really as far as I'm concerned, which is a good thing, because we don't have to learn any more ways of doing things. Now, of course, a lot of people are saying, why, oh why, Arduino, are you using Eclipse? Why are you not using Atom or any number of other possible platforms? And their answer was, well, one is a proven platform on which to develop. Secondly, they can produce the classic version from that very easily. So the classic and the pro versions are basically built on the same foundation. It's just what you see, you know, on the screen that differs a little bit. And they're more than happy with it. And what they have said, there was a slightly terse comment, I've got to admit, slightly terse, from one of the Arduino people, and basically the message was, for God's sake, stop talking to us about the actual technology and just use the damn thing and tell us what you think. Stop worrying about what it's built in. It could be written in Delphi for all you care, right? Let's just get on with it. And I've got to admit, I had to laugh when I read that, because I could understand the frustration of these people who are spending all this time developing this product and you'd be told, oh, you should have built it in this, you should have built it on that. Yeah. That's not what they want to hear. Okay, they've made that decision. It's going to be built on eclipse-theia, and well, that's where we are. It seems to be working okay as an alpha 0.03 or whatever the version is. So I encourage you to do that and look for the links. Right, what else can I tell you about this? So the foundation of this entire code base is here in the eclipse-theia GitHub, which you can have a look at. I'm not suggesting you download this necessarily, because I suspect Arduino have taken this and forked it and built their stuff on top, but I couldn't swear to that. So just have a look at this. I'll put this link in as well. You can browse it. It's all very useful stuff. What else can we say? Ah, yes, I mentioned the LED library. Now, this library that I've showed you here that allows control of that LED without having to put delays in for the blinks and, worry about PWM to make it fade nicely. Here's the home of that library, and it's called LED. Tells you all the different versions and all the different things that you can do with it. The documentation was slightly sparse in that beginning bit. If you remember, I said let's go back to the code window quickly. So here we are. So I mentioned that in the begin, or the setup rather, we had this LED begin value, and then in the main code we had to work out LED something something. And whilst the documentation does indicate that it expects a value here and all that, if you look at the examples that are supplied, there's only a few. You think, I don't understand this, what's going on, what the two values mean. So some of that is a little bit sparse, but I've explained it now that this is the overall length of the entire cycle, and this is how big the cycle is for that individual action, so the flash, right? So the whole flash in this case is going to take place in 1 second, but the cycle is going to be 2 seconds, therefore there's a second of not doing anything. At least that's the way I've interpreted it. If I get it wrong, do please tell me, but if you look at that on the screen at the moment, you can see it's flash, flash, nothing for 1,000 milliseconds, flash, flash. See? So I reckon that's probably about it, but there's quite a few other things that it can do. It can blink, it can, I don't know, well, go and read the documentation. It's a useful little library that you can use now. I'll probably use it in some of my sketches just to get familiar with it. I probably won't be using the Morse code sender, but as an attention grabber, of course, it could beep something in Morse code. Not that you would understand it necessarily unless you're a ham radio expert, but yeah, it's an interesting thing to have, isn't it? Right, now on to part 2 of this video. If there's time, if I'm editing this and find I've run out of time, the next bit goes out the window like it did last week, all that work. The next bit though, something I've been working on. I'm still waiting for stuff to arrive from China, and given what's happening in China at the moment, I fully expect there to be delays. When it eventually arrives, I'll be able to move forward on this project. Let's have a look what I've been doing. Now, if you remember, I developed that toothbrush timer using the binary to decimal coded shift register and things like that, which is all very well as an academic exercise, and I'm still using it as a toothbrush timer, would you believe? But I'm the first one to admit, as a universal timer, it left something to be desired. So I thought, what am I going to do with this? Additionally, the CEO inside said, if you think you're going to bring that into the kitchen to time our toasted sandwiches, think again. And I thought, you're right. It doesn't really look very nice to, be used inside the house. So I thought, what could I do? Well, there's a couple of things really. One, I'd like some sort of display like this one. Now, I know that we've said it before, this looks a little bit washed out on camera, but what I'm going to try and do is reduce the brightness. Right, so by reducing the brightness a bit, at least I think you get a better idea, although once again you're seeing that sort of reverse black splodge on there that I can't see in real life. You see these little black blobs that come up as it changes. Let me reduce the brightness a little bit more. Well, I think that's about as good as it's ever going to get, really, to be quite honest. Yep. Okay, I can't really do any more than that. But let's just say this looks very nice. And just to prove the point, of course, it's that display, or like the slightly larger display, the 2004, that's a 1602, 16 columns, 2 lines deep. The 20 column by 4 line is what I used in the Benny Cat Run display, which has been in use for a few years now. Oh, there it is. Look, that's the picture that I have got of it. Look, very nice it is too. And that sits under the telly, and there's not been a moment of complaint because it looks like it's a proper piece of equipment. So I thought, okay, I'll use one of these, but what am I going to put it in? I don't really fancy spending about £12, 12 British pounds on that enclosure just for a general purpose timer, one of which I want to make now is my toothbrush timer, of course. What to do? Well, luckily for me, Banggood came to the rescue. So let's have a look at that. Right, so whilst I was browsing the internet, Banggood keeps bombarding me with adverts, as you'd expect, and I saw this and I thought, $5.36 for that? Well, that's about half price, but it's nowhere near as nice. And then, of course, I noticed that it was for £3 pieces. All right. And I thought, oh, 3, that's less than $2. We're back to that cup of coffee syndrome, aren't we? The price of a cup of coffee anyway. I thought, right, so considerably less than $2 because there's free shipping on this. Look, there's free shipping. So I thought, that is now worthwhile. I could put my project into one of these, no trouble at all. And the viewing angle is correct. I can put some components at the back here. I'm thinking at this stage an 18650 maybe with a buck boost, something like that. And of course the actual, well, not an Arduino of course, but my own little PCB, or a Pro Micro, or indeed the LGT8 F328P Micro EVB, but I've got a potential problem with that. I can tell you about that in a sec. But anyway, anything like that could be put in this sort of space at the back here. In fact, if we keep rolling around, you'll see, look, you can see the space at the back a bit better there. So I reckon, yeah, there we are. Look, there's a good thing. There's a fair bit of space in the back. So whatever I can cram in there, I might well do. And then it would become a universal countdown timer, because that's exactly what this one is then going to be. This is a rotary encoder. So now what I can do is press the button, and I can change. I hope you can read that. Let's bring it closer. So it says change the minutes from the countdown. So we can go up and down and all the rest of it. So we said 8 minutes. Press it again. Now change the seconds. So we'll bring that to say 30. There we are. So 8:30. All right, 8 minutes 30 seconds. Press it. I think this rotary encoder is a bit dodgy. The switch on it. Yeah, you see, it's not accepting that. Oh, there we are. That did. Saved OK. Save it in EEPROM, of course. So the next time I switch it on, it will be 8:30, and then it starts its little countdown. And that's sort of the functionality I want. Apart from, I probably want a tilt switch on there, as I have on the current one, just to start the thing off, and an auto switch off to turn it all off at the end. So when the countdown reaches 0, you get a little siren or beep or whatever it is you get at the end of it, and then it just switches itself off. And I've measured the current, and it's something like 2 microamps through the device I'm using, which is pretty much, you know, insignificant, especially for an 18650. And when that eventually goes flat after a few months, just charge it up. And I've got plenty of 18650s, so I reckon that's a good choice. So over the next few weeks, you'll see how far I get with this. Obviously, I've got to create a PCB and a circuit, but I have something in mind for that. In fact, I've already done one PCB, but it does use that LGT F328P board. And the problem with that is that you cannot burn, as far as anybody knows, a new bootloader to it, or rather to flash a program on it without a bootloader using the ICSP SPI method. It just won't allow it. It requires some obtuse method of flashing stuff in that way, and you need a special program or something. So I put a couple of feelers out there for experts who might know the answer to that, but I'm thinking, yeah, with a bootloader on there, that initial delay at switch on could be enough to kill it, unless of course with this device, as I get the unit out of a cupboard and tilt it so it goes on, it just delays for, you know, a second at the time that you're going to start with, and then starts counting down. It might actually be to its advantage. I don't know. Until I try it, I won't know. But that's all to come. So at least the main functionality though, rotary encoder, hopefully with a switch that is less dodgy than this one, and a nice LCD display like this could be something that the CEO indoors is going to say, yes, okay, I'll accept that. Yeah, and I'm not talking about Benny either. No, much higher up the rank. Okay, so that's that. I can put the code for this up on my GitHub if you want to have a look at how I've done it. It's not the final code yet, obviously, because I only managed to get this going over the last 2 days. But it's building on what I've already done. I took my rotary encoder sketch from video 19. I mean, that's going back, what, 3-4 years now? Anyway, I took that just to make sure it was working. I didn't use the LCD to begin with, obviously. I used just the debug window. So got the rotary encoder bit working. That was fairly straightforward. Then I had to determine what to do with the pressing of the switches and bits like that, you know, and how to adjust the minutes and seconds. Then had to write to the EEPROM and read it back. That's a one-liner, that's no problem at all. And eventually then just plug in this, which I stole, well I didn't steal it, it's my own code, from the Benny run. So I thought, how did I do this with these big characters? So you can see it's, you know, each character is spread over 2 lines, so you can read it easily. And I've got to say it again, I've got to emphasize it, just looking at it here in real life compared to what I can see on screen. This is looking, I would call this color here azure, sort of a light pale sky blue color, yes? Whereas in real life I'm looking at it and it's a nice deep ocean blue. If you haven't got one of these, it's a doddle to use. Make sure you get the one with the backpack already fitted though. This is the backpack. It's actually a pin extender, which we've used in a different video. Oh, there it is, look. Just to extend pins, and that's really what they're doing here. But get one with the pin extender on the back, I2C here, and it's literally just, we use a library, and it's just a few lines of code to put stuff out like this. And with my big fonts way of doing it, it's, you know, it's simple, but it works nicely, I believe, anyway. All that plus more in the video description down below and in my GitHub. Obviously this is a work in progress, so it's going to change over time, but you can download it and run it exactly the same way as I've got it here, just to see how it's working. For beginners, this is how you learn stuff, isn't it, really? So I do sort of recommend that, really. Please don't come back to me with any code criticisms though, because obviously I threw this together. It needs a bit of refactoring, which is the way I work. I tend to get the core functionality working first, then I discover all this needs to be refactored into a different function, move that out. This needs to be renamed, that's not right, I'm doing this twice, you know, the dry principle. That still needs to be done to some extent. I've done a little bit of that, but yeah, it's a work in progress, but you can get it working just the same as this. So I'd love your comments down below, please. Just to see what you thought about the Arduino Pro IDE, and if you like to post a few questions up to them and say, oi, what's happening? Come on, tell us, stop being so secretive about it all. That'd be good as well, just show that we're interested. And if you want any questions or you've got comments about this sort of thing, the universal countdown timer now, that's great, I'll accept those as well. If you like this video, if you think, yeah, that's quite interesting, do give it a thumbs up to let YouTube know that it was quite interesting, because my last video nobody really thought was that interesting. And yeah, and I look forward very much to seeing you both in your comments and in the next video. Thanks for watching. I hope you're finding these videos useful and interesting. There are plenty more videos to choose, and a couple are shown below. And if you'd like to subscribe to this channel, just click on my picture below and enjoy the rest of the videos. Thanks for watching.